The stage lights glowed warmly across Kelly Clarkson's set, bathing the audience in golden hues as they clapped and cheered. The atmosphere was pure excitement. Lionel Richie, a music legend whose songs had shaped generations, was about to take his seat opposite Kelly. She greeted him with her signature smile, clapping her hands together as the applause reached a crescendo. "Ladies and gentlemen," Kelly announced, "the one and only, Lionel Richie." Lionel walked out, smooth as ever, in a tailored navy jacket and dark shades that he removed just as the audience roared. He gave his classic grin, shaking Kelly's hand before embracing her. "Kelly Clarkson," he said, drawing out her name like a melody. "Now this is a show I've been looking forward to." The audience laughed and cheered, instantly charmed. For the first 10 minutes, everything was easy, light, and full of laughter. They reminisced about his career milestones, his days with the Commodores, and those legendary hits, "Hello," "All Night Long," "Endless Love." Kelly gushed like any fan would, telling him how his music inspired her as a kid growing up in Texas. "I mean, come on," Kelly laughed. "I used to sing Stuck on You in my bathroom mirror pretending I was on stage." Lionel chuckled. "That's how all great singers start, Kelly. Bathroom acoustics make everyone sound like a star." The audience laughed again, and for a while, it was perfect television, two beloved artists sharing stories and respect. But then, things began to shift when Kelly decided to bring up something less rehearsed, something trending online. "So," she said carefully, "you made some comments recently that got people talking. You said today's pop music lacks soul. I gotta ask, do you really think that?" Lionel's smile wavered slightly, but he recovered quickly. "Kelly, listen," he began smoothly, leaning back in his chair. "I've been around this industry a long time, and what I see these days is a lot of production, a lot of style, but not a lot of heart. Back in the day, we felt the music. We lived it. Nowadays, I feel like everyone's chasing numbers, not emotion." There was a murmur from the audience. Kelly nodded politely but tilted her head, her expression thoughtful. "I get what you're saying," she replied, "but don't you think that's kind of painting with a broad brush? I mean, there are so many talented new artists out there pouring their hearts out. You can't say they don't have soul just because they sound different." Lionel gave a small shrug, his voice calm but firm. "Different isn't always better, Kelly. Don't get me wrong, there's talent out there. But most of what I hear on the radio feels processed. Auto-tuned emotion. You can't fake soul." Kelly raised an eyebrow. "Okay, but isn't that a little unfair? Times change, technology changes, people express themselves in new ways. Maybe what sounds artificial to you feels authentic to someone else." Lionel chuckled dryly, his tone growing sharper. "I'm all for evolution, but emotion doesn't need a filter. You don't need a machine to sing from your heart. When I hear some of these tracks today, it's like listening to robots trying to sound human." A ripple of laughter came from part of the audience, but Kelly didn't join in. She straightened in her seat. "That might be true for some," she said, her voice a little tighter now, "but there's also incredible artistry in production, too. Look at artists like Billie Eilish or Her, they're redefining what emotional music sounds like. It's not all robot voices." Lionel nodded slowly, though the warmth had drained from his smile. "Maybe so, but for every Billie, there are 100 chasing trends and algorithms. The industry's become about instant gratification. We've lost patience for storytelling." Kelly leaned forward. "But doesn't every generation say that about the next one? Weren't there critics in your day who thought your music wasn't real enough?" Lionel's eyes flickered. He laughed, but it was tight, forced. "Touché, Kelly. But there's a difference between critics and craft. We wrote songs that people still sing 40 years later. That's staying power. I'm not sure a TikTok hook will last that long." The audience gave a half-hearted laugh, unsure whether to cheer or stay quiet. Kelly smiled politely, though there was tension in her voice. "I mean, fair point, but maybe you're underestimating the new generation. They connect differently, but connection's still there. Just digital now." Lionel's voice hardened. "And maybe that's the problem. Digital isn't human." A heavy silence filled the studio. The exchange that began as a lively debate had taken a turn towards something personal. Kelly tried to soften it with a nervous laugh, saying, "Well, I think we'll have to agree to disagree on that one." But Lionel wasn't ready to let it go. "You asked, Kelly. I gave you the truth," he said, looking her squarely in the eyes. "Music without soul isn't music, it's noise. And the world's getting real comfortable with noise." Kelly blinked, visibly taken aback. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. The camera zoomed in slightly, catching the briefest flash of discomfort in her smile. The crowd shifted uneasily, glancing between the two stars. What started as a friendly interview had transformed into a philosophical standoff, old school versus new wave, soul versus software. And the show had only just begun. For a long, frozen moment, no one moved. The crowd sat in utter silence, stunned by what they had just witnessed. Kelly Clarkson forced a nervous laugh, her usual sunny composure dimmed by the unexpected tension. Okay, well, she started, trying to regain control of the conversation. That was real talk, y'all. But Lionel Richie wasn't smiling. He leaned forward slightly, his expression unreadable, and said in a low, steady voice, Kelly, I came here to celebrate music, not to have my legacy turned into some kind of generational debate. The studio audience gasped softly. Kelly blinked, momentarily thrown off. Oh no, that's not what I meant at all, she replied quickly, trying to smooth things over. You're a legend, Lionel. Everyone here respects you. I just think, Lionel interrupted, his tone sharp but calm. Respect is a two-way street, Kelly. You can't defend music you don't even write. The words hung in the air like thunder. Kelly's expression faltered. Excuse me, she said, her smile gone. I've written plenty of my own songs, Lionel. Maybe not as many as you, but that doesn't mean. He held up his hand, his voice firm. No disrespect, but I'm talking about real songwriting, lyrics that come from blood, heartbreak, experience. Not a team of producers sitting around tweaking hooks until something trends. The crowd murmured again. Kelly inhaled slowly, clearly trying to keep her composure. I think we just see things differently, she said through a tense smile. Music evolves. It's supposed to. You helped shape that evolution. You opened doors for artists like me. Lionel's eyes softened for a moment, but his frustration was still simmering beneath the surface. Then maybe it's time for those doors to lead somewhere meaningful again, he muttered. The atmosphere was now thick with discomfort. The producers, watching from behind the cameras, gestured frantically for a commercial break, but the segment was still live. Kelly tried one last time to pull the show back into friendly territory. Well, she said brightly, though her voice trembled, we're clearly both passionate about music, and that's what makes these conversations so interesting. But Lionel was already rising from his seat. The sudden scrape of the chair echoed loudly through the silent studio. Kelly's eyes widened. Lionel, wait, are you leaving? He straightened his jacket and adjusted his cufflinks before replying, I think I've said enough for one day. You wanted honesty, you got it. The crowd gasped, unsure whether to clap or stay silent. Kelly stood halfway, reaching out as if to stop him. Lionel, please, don't go like this. We can talk about it off air. Lionel turned slightly, his voice quieter but firm. Kelly, I've been doing this for 50 years. I've seen every phase of this industry. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's that when people stop listening, it's time to walk away. He looked out at the stunned audience, forcing a polite smile. Thank you, everyone. It's been enlightening. Then he walked off the stage, through the shimmering curtain, and disappeared backstage. For several seconds, no one in the studio breathed. The silence was deafening until the band, unsure what to do, began to play a hesitant instrumental riff. Kelly stood frozen in place, her hand still half extended. Finally, she forced a small laugh and turned back toward the camera. Well, that just happened, she said softly. The crowd chuckled nervously, some applauding, others whispering. A moment later, the show abruptly cut to commercial. Behind the scenes, chaos erupted. Producers rushed toward Lionel, who was pacing near the dressing rooms, clearly fuming. He wasn't supposed to storm out, one whispered. Another muttered, keep the footage rolling, this is going to blow up online. A crew member gently approached Lionel. Mr. Richie, we can edit that part out if you want, they said cautiously. Lionel shook his head. Don't bother, he replied. People need to see it. Maybe it'll remind them what real passion for music looks like. Meanwhile, Kelly was backstage too, sitting quietly with a bottle of water in hand. Her team surrounded her, trying to comfort her. You handled it fine, one producer said. You stayed calm. It's live TV, these things happen. Kelly sighed, brushing her hair back. I wasn't trying to disrespect him, she said quietly. I just wanted to talk about how things have changed. I didn't mean for it to go there. Her assistant nodded sympathetically. Everyone knows that, Kelly. Don't worry, people will see your heart. But within hours, the internet told a different story. The clip hit social media before the show even finished airing. On TikTok, one user posted, "Lionel Richie storms off Kelly Clarkson after brutal exchange, was he right?" Twitter lit up with hashtags. Hashtag Lionel vs Kelly, hashtag music debate, hashtag walk-off moment. Fans were divided. Some sided with Lionel, praising his defense of real music, and calling him a truth-teller unafraid to speak his mind. Others defended Kelly, saying she represented the evolution of artistry and that Lionel's comments were outdated. Kelly was just being respectful, one fan wrote. Lionel overreacted. Times change. Another countered. Lionel Richie has earned the right to speak his truth. Music today is too synthetic. By the next morning, major entertainment outlets had picked up the story. Headlines read, Lionel Richie walks off Kelly Clarkson show after heated music debate, and generational rift erupts between two music icons. Both stars eventually issued statements. Lionel's team released a short message, Mr. Richie has always been passionate about authentic music. Sometimes honest conversations get heated, but his respect for Kelly remains. Kelly posted on X later that evening, I have nothing but love for Lionel Richie. We had a passionate discussion about music. That's what makes it beautiful. We both care deeply about what we do. Despite their public grace, those who were in the studio that day knew the tension was real, raw and unforgettable. It wasn't just a disagreement about music, it was a clash between eras, between tradition and transformation. And as the clip continued to rack up millions of views across the world, one thing was clear, the moment Lionel Richie walked off Kelly Clarkson's stage had cemented itself as one of the most talked about moments in daytime television history.